a ROSC community. And you could do at McLean County Recovers as one word as well. And then our YouTube is, yes, right here. You can probably take a picture and zoom in on it if you're not already following our page. So here's some things that we did this past year to address some of the community deficits. We had a spirituality and recovery panels discussion highlighting Islam, Muslim, Judaism, Christianity, non-denominational, spiritual pathways, white bison, things along those lines. So it was really just an eye-opener to bring more awareness to our community members, not only in recovery, but also family members as well. Same thing with the diversity and recovery panels discussion. We had the interim chief of police with some clinicians in town, but also people with lived experience. And it was during a time of really heightened sensitivity surrounding these topics. And what we did, we were very cognizant about making a benign conversation just to get people to the table to talk and listen to each other, different perspectives and points of view. That video is still on our YouTube page. I highly encourage anyone, if you haven't checked it out, to check it out. We also launched a racial diversity and recovery work group. And this really falls under our umbrella of not only multicultural, but also multi-pathways to recovery. So we really want to focus on one niche group, not put them all under one umbrella of minorities. Created a new scholarship. Joan was just speaking of this, how we got the extension. This is the new scholarship for the new Heartland College CPRS certification for the Recovery Support Specialist program. So what the ROSC will do is offset some of that financials in order to encourage people with lived experience to go through this program. And when I say people with lived experience, that could be a family member that's been afflicted by addiction, or you yourself. But if you're passionate about addiction recovery in the community, again, Heartland, we could help you offset those financial, I would say, strains, or if that's something that's been holding you back from pursuing this certification program, or a friend. We co-launched the McLean County Reentry Council back in May. And we initiated a family planning day, and that's probably our biggest new endeavor that will be taking us into the first quarter of next year with the Recovery Cafe. I'll touch upon that a little bit more in just a moment. So we do also with next year, in that first quarter, we really want to get more of that traction under our family recovery and alumni services, create an alumni network for those who have completed treatment. So I'm going to move you around a little bit. In Central Illinois, like social media, retreats, sober gatherings, alumni support, group meetings, big book, basic text workshops, side note, and even different spirituality pathways, alumni speakers, and more. We're also looking into affordable recovery housing. Thank you, Ethan, for being here as well. And then Stigma Reduction Collaborative, the Reentry Council, Diversity and Recovery. And we are relaunching the LGBTQIA recovery support group. I've been meeting with a couple of other individuals, with a professor from ISU, Dr. Gavin Wasser, who will be facilitating the not only the support group, but also the curriculum that we'll be having every week to have a little bit more structure. Hopefully we'll gain some more traction. That, I believe, is January 20th, but more to come on the official launch day. All right, and so this is, I think, the last slide. This is our vision for the Recovery Cafe. It's really the evolution of the ROSC. As I use as an analogy, the ROSC is, keeping with my education mindset, the ROSC is like, receiving the high school diploma. We're starting to, create that bridgeway from treatment centers to the community. So you're graduating, going out to the community. Now, I would like to say the Recovery Cafe is more like your associate's degree, because you still have that financial partner to help gain the traction, build that momentum from the ROSC, but actually have it still become even more of its own separate entity as a Recovery Cafe. And then hopefully the bachelor's is an RCO, which is totally standalone by itself, ran by individuals in recovery, so on and so forth. That will happen. We will make that happen. But realistically, the next milestone in our pathway is probably Recovery Cafe, but we'll bring more information. As Kat spoke to, we're meeting with Beth with We Bloom in Indianapolis to see about the variety of skills in education, and the sober fun and recreation, recovery mentors, meetings, childcare and transportation. All these things the ROSC does now, but the difference is that with that step up in the echelon is that we're going to have a little bit more structure there will be hopefully a brick and mortar place where people can go to. And there's a calendar of events. There's a time that they're open. There's a time that they're closed. Literally a community in the community for these things to happen. And so here again, the recreation is stigma reduction, eradication, SUD, COD, that's substance use disorder, coexisting disorders, family sessions, art and music therapy, movie and games, meditation and sports, art and culture, and fellowship and unity. So hopefully I wouldn't try to get too much out there at once, but I'll send this out to whomever would like to look at it further. Any thoughts before I turn it back over to Dan?
Yes, I have a thought. Can we just get a round of applause for all of that?
Woo! Oh, I love you, girl.
Oh my gosh.
It's
like just thinking about you all starting, just like getting in the planning process of getting this off the ground and then seeing how far it has come. This is everything. Like, I got goosebumps over here. I just want to say, like, hey, congrats.
And you know what? You brought up a great point, Gaynette, to speak to. We're trying to develop a reentry logo. And we're looking at different prototypes. And Gaynette, we saw one thing, like, we need to really bring the community feel to it. I'm like, yes. And that's really what the ROSC is about, is that community feel. And everyone sitting at this table right now, virtually, online, has been there in person. It goes to the events, advocates for the ROSC, advocates for humanity, for everyone. That's what it's all about. All of us coming together, still fighting this fight with that passion that we all have, leading out that empathetic foot. Okay, I'll keep going, Dan. You better unmute.
All right, thank you, Angie. And you know, there's a lot of little things that are just, not everything was covered in that. That was like the 40,000 high level view, but you know, there's work to be done, a lot of different areas, work that's been done. So with that in mind, we haven't really done this in a while, and this is probably something that we should be doing at least quarterly, but we wanted to do a exercise that's basically like a ROSC health check. This isn't designed to be like, you know, a big love fest and just, you know, repeating, you know, successes that we've had. We want this to be, you know, an opportunity for honesty, you know, as far as the ROSC, you know, what is going well, but, you know, we recognize there's always more we can be doing. And you know, perhaps there's areas we should be addressing that we just either haven't recognized it or hadn't, you know, for whatever reason, it's been on the back burner. So let me pull up the questions specifically that we have that we'll ask people to answer in breakouts and then report back to the larger group. So let's see here. One moment, please. Okay. So basically 3 questions, some sub questions, but we're just trying to get at, you know, what are we doing well, you know, the ROSC, we as the McLean County ROSC, what could we be doing better, or who are we missing, you know, what stakeholders do we still need to be targeting, what either agencies or sectors have we, you know, just not either been able to recruit or retain. If neither of those questions really sort of gets to what you want to say, just, you know, simply what would you change? You know, if you had the opportunity to change one thing or change multiple things, what might those be? And then time permitting, third question, what should be next, or what are you looking forward to, you specifically, or what are you interested in the most that the ROSC is working on for next year? What other topics would you like to see covered, either in council meetings as far as guest speakers coming to, you know, speak on a topic like an RCO, you know, the maturation process from a ROSC to an RCO. We've had, you know, doctors in the past to discuss MAR and MAT, you know, medication assisted treatment and recovery. So what other topics might, you know, we've had Narcan before, but we're probably due for that again. So we're looking for your feedback. This is this is all of ours, you know, this isn't a chestnut thing. So we want to make sure we're being intentional as often as possible about getting honest feedback from the council members, because you know, we just don't always have time to get into some of these discussions. So it seemed appropriate at the end of the year going into 2022 to identify some of this stuff. Any questions?
Dan, how long are you gonna put us in breakout rooms for?
You're gonna, okay, thank you. I will leave the question, I'll paste them into chat as well. Groups will probably be about, I'm guessing 4 or 5 people. So if somebody maybe wants to take a picture of their questions, volunteer a note taker and or presenter, we would be very grateful.
And I'll do the breakout rooms real quick. Unless you are.
Nope, go for it. Thank you.
And could you copy the questions and put them in the chat?
Yep, just hopefully they showed up.
Oh, you did. Thanks.
No problem. Again, be honest. Speaking for myself, I'm a little thin-skinned, but we can take it.
Sorry.
Should start breaking off momentarily. All right, I got the cool room.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Natasha.
Hi there. Sorry I was late.
That's right. Did you get the gist of what this is all about here in this breakout?
I think like future planning type thing, like trying to figure out like where we want to go next.
Basically just kind of a self-assessment, like what do we feel is going well with the ROSC, what could be better, and let me see here, let me pull them up. I wrote them, you think I'd be able to remember them. What are we doing well, the ROSC? What could we be doing better? Who are we still missing? What would you change? And then what are you looking forward to the most next year? What other topics would you like to see either presented or at council meetings or just pursued as far as services provided?
So I don't mind going first for a couple like quick thoughts. So I used to be part of the behavioral health like subcommittee. And that has turned into more like focusing on the reentry council and the racial diversity group. I would be interested in some sort of refocus, another group on behavioral health and the intersection of that with substance use and some work related to that, if that's stigma reduction or whatever. I will say I'm changing roles soon, so that might change, but I still think I can be part of the ROSC, so that shouldn't be a problem. But just a disclaimer, my suggestions on that. And then also like, I think trainings might be helpful, like common ones like QPR. I think we might have did in this one, or Narcan, or like mental health first aid, something like that. I'm a mental health first aid trainer that I could help set that up.
Okay, that's a great class, by the way.
Yeah. So like, just like I don't know what the word is, but like common folk kind of trainings that can be implemented in the community, not just like clinician type of trainings.
Right.
So like those 3 are good ones.
Good call.
And then there was one other thing. And I think just like doing well, I think just like the other thing was like, and I don't know how many people we actually have part of the ROSC Council, but I'm thinking of like, we have people with like lived experience, but then we also have like people with experience like professionally. And I'm just wondering how many people do we have involved that are like family members that have been impacted by that, or caregivers, or siblings, or like I'm just like more of the like natural supports that like they've been impacted. They have a whole different type of experience. And I know that I'm just I'm just talking, but so like those would be my initial thoughts that came to mind when I saw these questions.
That's great. That's exactly the kind of feedback, like with the behavioral health committee. I remember when I've seen that sort of, I don't want to say evolution, it kind of more morphed, but yeah, that's something you're just like close to it. And you have all these other different, committee meetings, and hearing you say that makes perfect sense. Yeah, like people got on the behavioral health because that's what they were passionate about. Nothing against reentry or, other topics, but that's not what you signed up for initially. So I like the idea of bringing that back to its original focus, like you said, and getting to the stigma reduction and some of the original objectives. Training, that's a great call too, especially for like, layperson or just struggling to come up with the term too, but the average citizen.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's way more than those three that I know, but it's like, or even crisis, what is it called? CIT type of like non-clinician type of training.
Yeah.
Mental health first aid really is just this isn't like biased because I am an instructor, but it just is really kind of, it addresses crisis and recover, substance use, mental health, but just any of those things.
Suicide even.
Yeah.
Just basically knowing how to talk to somebody when they're in crisis. They don't elevate you, you help bring them down, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. We lost Angelica. I'm not sure what happened there. Natasha, any thoughts on what you're hearing so far?
Yeah, I can share a couple. I agree with everything that Taylor said. I think that one thing that we're doing well, I think that it's really, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, inspiring, I guess. I can't think of the right word, but like everyone is still showing up. Like there's so many people that attend this meeting that I think that that's something that definitely to be applauded, is that people still are showing up and coming and with their ideas and with their thoughts and their interests. And so that's really good that we're getting together as a community and doing that. What we could be doing better, like let me think on that one. Let me come back to that one. I think we're missing, like I would like to see like the college age population, like younger people in recovery. I think that would be good to kind of get the word out there on campus or just in treatment centers that there is at this community. And because I think that that younger population maybe connects in different ways, and so having someone that can speak to that or would be helpful. What would I change? I'm not sure. I really would like to also like have, I feel like a lot of times like there's a lot of talking and like we want change, but then we don't like move to the next phase of like, so I think that we need like the stakeholders with the money like to be at some of these meetings, because I think that we all want to help and we all see like the need for different things like housing and affordable housing and access for people, like the reentry council. But it's like when it comes down to it, like none of us individually have the ability to just like build a house. So we need the people that have that ability to be at some of these meetings and to know that this is an issue. Because I think a lot of times if it doesn't affect me, then it's not a problem, when it's a big problem in the community.
Yeah, kind of getting to that sort of mover and shaker type recruitment, people that have the resources to make things happen, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Maybe that means, I don't know, like going to try and get time at like a Rotary Club meeting to, explain what the ROSC is to some of those folks that, often have either political or financial influence in the community.
And maybe it's like there's a grant that someone needs to write and we need someone that has that strength. Like I have no idea. I've never built a house, but
Yeah.
I'm sure there's something out there that would be beneficial for the community.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, my thing is like, it's just, there's always this feeling that you're missing something or someone. And yeah, a big part of it is kind of what you were saying there, Natasha. It's like you come out of a meeting, people are talking about something, everyone's on the same page. You get that sort of, energy going. It's exciting. And then it's like, taking that from point A to point B or point B to point C sometimes is hard when, we're still trying to set up funding and that kind of thing. And, just, when you have limited resources, I guess, just making sure that you're targeting the right stuff. I suppose that's everybody's dilemma. But I'd like to see, like, and COVID did put a stop on this, but we were going to try and get like some volleyball or softball co-ed leagues going last year. So maybe coming into this coming spring, the time is right to try something like that. Even if it's like, if we don't have enough people to support like a league, maybe even just get like a team, that can play in like a ROSC softball, co-ed team, volleyball team might be kind of cool.
Maybe there needs to be like, I don't know, some kind of like ROSC fundraiser, some kind of community event that would also raise money.
We did actually have one this past September, a couple months ago, or September. It was like a picnic, and we had raffle baskets and some silent auctions. We raised about $1,000. So, a drop in the bucket in the grand scheme, but pretty decent for a start, I guess. Just considering it wasn't like a gala dinner or some like big golf outing. But yeah, more of that. We did set up, all those funds went right into a executive fund that Chestnut stewards, and so that's like separate from the ROSC budget, so we don't have to give that back. That's ROSC money for us to do what we want with. Right now we want to build it,
Sure.
but it's a start.
Could we get maybe some speakers on like some of like the process addictions? I don't think we really have covered that too much.
Good call.
Has there been a mention, and you might have already said this, I apologize if it's a repeat, but it popped just in my head, like, is there ever been a mention or an idea of like a certain like annual event, conference or something surrounding or partnering with a conference that's already being done? Like, I know like Carl does the behavioral health symposium. I don't know if that's annually or not. There's the behavioral health forum with the county, whatever other ones, but like maybe some sort of partnership or and a separate one could be like implementing just like education and awareness and community involvement, but also fundraising at the same time.
Yeah.
And could incorporate family programming, or, it could have a lot of potential.
Yeah. Yeah, as far as like an annual conference, I haven't heard any talk about that. That's an interesting idea. This fundraiser that we started in September, we want to make an annual like signature event. So it started as a picnic, and then like with my parents, we have a fund through Food for the Poor in my sister's memory, and it started like the first year as a golf outing, and they made a couple $1,000s that went towards like Children's Hospital in Chicago, and then 15 years later, you know, it's this fancy gala dinner, you know, they add people, you kind of recruit people and sort of just builds momentum year to year, and they're raising over 100 grand every year, you know, hospitals and schools in Haiti and that kind of thing. So it's like, it's kind of like, let's just do one this year, this past year, you know, get it on the map, the radar, so to speak. And then, you know, each year we'll try and build on it. So that's the hope with that. As far as like, you know, annual fundraising event, but it'd be nice to have other stuff interspersed, like a training event or conference. That sounds cool.
Conference just seems like maybe not the right word. But
Yeah, I hear what you're saying though. I think like any training that has to do with like independent living skills is good too, like for people in recovery, you know, like we need training as far as the mental health first aid and dealing with people in recovery and handling them and, you know, crisis mode and that kind of stuff. And stigma reduction, but then we also, it'd be nice to have training for people in recovery too, you know, finances and employment, you know, job interviewing, some of the, you know, cooking.
navigating resources, even like
Yeah.
just getting back on their feet.
Right.
Like, I think that like that would be really good. And just like, if we could like get to a point where we have enough funds to just, like, I know I have a lot of clients, like when they are getting out of jail, like they have nothing. They have like no socks. They have like,
Yeah.
like just like a backpack of supplies, like some, like, you know, something, you know, like a snack bar, like just a backpack of supplies would be good. And then like just having funds for like, if they needed like a night at a hotel, like maybe we would have like funds for that people could request, or maybe like an agency could request on behalf of a client or something like that. So just being able to help those with the least amount of resources and the most amount of problems would be helpful.
Can you say that last thing you said, that last line? The most.
Oh, I was just saying, helping the people with the least amount of resources and the most
Oh.
amount of problems. Yeah.
Right.
Are you the spokesperson for our group?
I mean, I took notes, but I sort of feel like I shouldn't be the spokesperson, but are you guys comfortable to talk into what you raised and then I'll just add anything else that gets missed?
Honestly, I took no notes and I don't remember all that I said.
right.
So-
All right, I'll do, yeah, I'll report back.
I would appreciate it as well if you could.
Taylor isn't going for my office. All right. We'll see.
I'll give ideas. I don't like to speak.
You did your part for sure.
Group, if you want,
Is everybody back yet?
just about.
Whoops, they returned us.
Yeah, I put a message closing in 30 seconds.
It wasn't enough.
So
All right, how was
who,
that?
looks like we have everybody. Who would like to go first? We'll see if we can spend maybe, well, wow, maybe a couple of minutes each group, and then we can get in more depth into some of this stuff next month. But if we could just hear some general feedback, that'd be helpful. If anybody wants to start off with some maybe
Yeah.
like the main things.
And say, Joan, would you like to go ahead and share an update?
Do you want me to go over what we talked about, or do you want me to go on the other thing?
Oh,
Whichever. You can go over whatever you talked about. I didn't know if you had time to touch upon it.
We did it just briefly at the very end. So maybe, do I want to go last and then we can maybe all talk about it?
Okay.
Okay.
So I will say really quick for our group that the feedback was that we've covered a lot of different communities, not just substance abuse. really listening to and helping all populations feel seen and heard, and networking very well outside of the geographical boundaries. And one thing that we're looking at next year is the rural areas, I feel, is a deficit. And so we all were talking, and like, I'd really like to do like a mobile human services. So I would like to literally travel like what Michelle does with the mobile book service, but do something with human service, like pamphlets, information. And I will travel to like different, Bruce brought up a great idea, 4th of July parades, where there's a lot of communities coming together, hit them up like, hey, do you know what this is? Do you know this is offered? You know, so to have that warm human connection to introduce a lot of services to the rural areas.
Cool. I'll touch on group 4 real quick, just in the interest of time, flying through this. We had one member, we had Taylor, myself, and Natasha, and there was some feedback that there was a behavioral health subcommittee, as we know, that was formed last year, and that kind of refocused or sort of morphed into like some reentry and racial equality and treatment work, which is great, but it would be nice to see another group just specific to behavioral health to get back to like stigma reduction and you know, raising awareness within the community. So I thought that was really good feedback. Just more trainings for, lack of a better term, kind of the average citizen, not somebody who works as a clinician or in the human services field, but trying to get training out there about, you know, Narcan to our citizens and family members, you know, QPR, mental health first aid training, suicide, you know, either prevention or just how to talk to somebody who's having suicidal thoughts and ideations. So training for citizens, and then also like training or opportunities for to teach independent living to people actually in recovery who maybe don't have experience with, you know, balancing a checkbook, cooking, you know, interviewing for jobs, building a resume, that kind of stuff. One of the props was that people are still showing up, you know, people are still passionate. Another thing that came up is something, you know, maybe like a community liaison between the ROSC and young people in recovery, you know, like a liaison to the college to get kind of a younger age recovery network going, or at least to get word about the ROSC more to young people in recovery. And to up the recruitment with people who are basically movers and shakers, you know, who actually have the resources. We talked about how we get a lot of good ideas and we talk about them in meetings, and we're all kind of riding that excitement. And then it's like, how do you get it from point A to point B, and then B to C in terms of like resources? So maybe like pitching a presentation about the ROSC to like Rotary clubs, or, you know, trying to tap into people who might be interested who also have, you know, financial and political influence. And then, you know, Natasha made a comment, you know, like maybe another like backpack initiative, just helping get, you know, basic needs into people's hands who need it the most, you know. So those are some of the things we talked about. Any other groups?
I think our group, I think you were eavesdropping on our group. So go ahead, Kat.
People are very impressed with the leadership of both Angi and Dan, very impressed with how open they are, attitudes towards inclusion and diversity. As far as what could we be doing better, we were talking about, you know, increased training across the board. I specifically weighed in and said, I don't know what the situation is with all the programs, but to see at least offering of programs to medical students who can get, you know, who have the knowledge for already doing injections and whatnot for like administering Narcan, but also in addition to some of the stuff where they have to learn about cultural competence, going into like a mental health first aid and getting that to the people who patients might interact with, and where we can be providing more of those trauma-informed responses. And then what should be next? We talked about doing just more overall general mental health initiatives like we talked about in the Family Day program planning, and just not just focus on recovery, but like the overall mental health care of individuals in general, learning coping mechanisms, identifying triggers and whatnot.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kat. Appreciate that explanation. Okay, was there a fourth group before we turn it over to Joan? Anybody have something burning that was not reflected in their team members recap that they just wanted to get out there?
Do you want me to go over? I think we were the fourth group.
Okay, sure, that'd be great.
We wanted to echo the comments that Kat made in terms of being very impressed with Angie and Dan. One of us, I can't remember who, made the comment that Angie's everywhere and anywhere in bringing people to the table. So, and Dan, you're just so creative, and the wonderful resource guide that you created at the beginning of COVID was just, I mean, it's everywhere now. We passed it around to all the ROSC councils in the state. Very impressive. And that we can really tell that the people involved really care about what's going on in the community. So let's see. So I think the rest of it was all talked about. What could we be doing better? Who are we missing? We talked about that we're, not all of us, but a lot of us are very pale. And we think there should be more diversity, and so that we can be more reflective of the community that we serve. So that would be something that's not just Angie and Dan's responsibility, but like everybody's responsibility to bring additional people to the table. And making sure that people know, I think Ethan, as a new person in the community, brought this up. It was a great point, is that when you Google things, sometimes not everything comes up. So making sure, working with PATH maybe to make sure that people know how to access and use their online directory. That's one of the things that we did in my class, my advocacy and mentoring classes. I spent, I don't know how long, one class time just walking people through how to look up things in the directory, how to access it, what's in there, and things like that. So that was very helpful for them. And then the other comment was, should we be focusing on sustainability for the ROSC councils, especially the staff? Like, is there going to be a point where funding is going to run out for the state? And then how do we sustain the ROSC council after that? And I think along with that, I'm going to just throw out there, I think we need to talk about like what will be the difference between the Recovery Cafe and the ROSC council, and what would that look like at some point? Things that we think or recommendations that we had were to help 12-step program, especially AA, get on the app so that new people coming into the community know how that, because it apparently, like when you go on the app, there's no meetings in the community. So because I don't think that anybody knows how to do it. So we might, need to give them some technical support. And then becoming more well-known in the community. So whether that's bigger events like walks or things like op-ed pieces, for an example, in the newspaper, authored by people that say, that identify themselves as part of the ROSC Council, or being on news shows, just bigger, so that people in the community that are outside of social services really know who we are and what we do. And then the last thing, and I'll launch into then the thing I asked to be put on the agenda, was the recovery housing and expanding recovery housing. And there's an opportunity. Super has a grant out for permanent supportive housing for people with substance use disorders or co-occurring. And it's supposed to be, it's up to $1 million and can fund or should be funding at least 30 people to be housed. It is a grant that would start in March and go through the end of June and then pick up again for the next state fiscal year, which is July 1 to June 30 for sure. I don't know if it'll be supported post that, but it could have the ability to launch. Like I was thinking, Ethan, about people who get out of the Oxford houses. It's a permanent place then for them to go post being in a congregate living kind of facility. They don't, the caveat is that people cannot be required to participate in treatment services while they're in the housing, but they can be required to like maintain their recovery so that they're not like, if whoever does it is like in one apartment building, they can't be like drunk and disorderly around the apartment and affecting other people's recovery, or they should be able to put rules in place where, staff or whoever the landlord is or whoever can go in and check out their apartment to make sure they're not, in there making meth or, which happens. So the thing I wanted to say is that we at Chestnut looked at it and decided it's not the right time for us to apply for that grant, which is why I'm bringing it to the ROSC Council to see if we can put our heads together about, I'm very willing as a grant writer to help people apply and figure out how to do a budget and do all of that stuff. So I just wanted to throw it out there. Angie, do you remember, is it due like, what did I say, the 14th of January?
Yeah, so it'd be January 14th that the grant would be due to write and submit. And then just housing to 30 capacity has to be maintained by the end of the first year. And so I think this could be a great opportunity for affordable housing for individuals. And you can create house rules if you want to encourage a recovery pathway. But at the same time, like to Joan's point that, we can't mandate, but this is a great housing opportunity, I think, especially that you can't actually market it as recovery homes. So I think there's different demographics that'd be open to. And I think, Joan, that the 30 units don't have to be at the same place. So there could be different satellite units throughout Bloomington Normal.
Right. It could be a situation where they're scattered site and we work with, 30 different landlords, although that's painful. But
so I'm sorry, I kind of missed some. So the NOFO, where is this funding coming from, you all? Like, do we know exactly who's the grant?
It's coming from SUPER, so the Division of Substance Use Prevention and Recovery. Dana, I'm happy to email you the link to the NOFO.
Here it is, Dana. Can you see my screen, Dana?
Yes.
I'll copy this number and drop it in the chat.
Absolutely. I just see that this is an opportunity. I'm with you, Joan. I'm sorry that we kind of cut you out. I think this is something that we really need in this community. And I know you all over there at Chestnut are doing so much. So I wouldn't even try to put this on you, but I know if we can get together with a few other people, could you actually, I'm doing this on my phone. I'm not going to be able to copy and paste it. Could you email it to me, to my Prairie State, Angie?
Yes, I sure can.
Thank you. I just know this is something that we need. We really need these resources. A lot of the times the housing, the jails are full because there are people who is just like, I'd rather be in jail than be cold. We know our shelters. We know our shelters are not able to take everybody that needs it. And they risk a chance of either going back and relapsing or not having the resources that they need. And I think this is amazing, but I do understand that it's going to be very time consuming. It's going to take a lot of support. So,
the other thing too is that I talked to Matt Burgess at Home Sweet Home, and he was interested in partnering with someone about it. Originally, I talked to him last week because I was hoping that Chestnut would go for it or apply for it. And so I was looking for partners. And then we talked about it yesterday and just were like, we have so many open positions and things that we're trying to do to sustain the services that we have, that adding, a large project like this right now is just beyond us. But
oh my God, this is like perfect. This is definitely in you all's wheelhouse, Joan. And like I said, I do get that this is a lot. When you're talking about overseeing 30 people, you have to think you're really overseeing 75, because then you have family members like trying to talk to POs, like, how is this gonna look? It's a lot of work. I just want to be able to help however I can, but I do want to look this over. We need this. I just hate that it's so close. January 14th is not a lot of time.
the great thing about it is that it doesn't require a lot. It's not like a SAMHSA or a federal grant.
Oh yeah, okay.
So it's a lot easier to write, is what I'm trying to say. So.
Well, yeah, I'm good. Like I said, I'm good with the grant writing. I'm good with that. It's just I'm trying to find someone to agree to partner with such a short amount of time. The grant is good. I barely sleep anyway. It's just like, who do we speak with? And you said Matt Burgess over it. I'm sorry, we just kind of like, we can just set some time away. I don't want to hijack the ROSC, but you said Matt Burgess was open. Do you know if anybody else that may have been open to partnering?
Not yet, but I just put my email in the chat. If you guys are thinking about potential partners, or you want to come to the table and talk to me more about it, please email me.
Gotcha.
Okay. Thank you, Joan. Sounds like we got some excitement conjured up, which was what we were hoping, so that's good. Last thing I wanted to mention before we close up is we had that clothing drive last Friday we collected, and it really turned out wonderful. A lot of just gorgeous hand knitted hats, scarves, probably around 100 articles altogether. So again, when you were talking about people not having the warm enough clothes and that kind of thing, that reminded me to mention that. I wanted to, she's not here, Andrea Kinza, today, but she pulled a lot of that together through different people that she knew. So that was a big part of it. So kudos to the community, people definitely that was exceeded my expectations. So next step is to get that stuff passed out into the hands of the people who need it. Have a note here from Tom to have Joan explain 8-1. I think we might have to wait till next time on that. Tom, did you want to speak to this?
No, I just think it'd be great with the number of people to be joining the workforce. If at some point Joan kind of talk about that program that she's working on, the 814 grant award. I know that she's not with the college, but she could really bring, because it's going to put a lot of behavioral health people with lived experience into the workforce in Central Illinois.
Now, is that something just you're talking about for a future topic at an upcoming council meeting? Okay.
Yeah, I had that, and also getting police and the court system into the group somehow.
All right. Thank you for that. We'll take that offline with Joan. Last thing I want to mention, next Wednesday, the 29th, hopefully that's the right day of the week. Michelle, Wednesday, right? We're having our holiday party over at Bloomington Public Library in the community room. be split an hour of just hanging out, playing games, doing individual vision boards, having fun. And then we have a really good speaker for the second portion, which is also something you can just zoom into if folks only want to hear the speaker. His name's Joey C. He's somebody I met in treatment down in Florida years ago. And he used to run Dr. Phil's television company, and he's got interesting stories about playing tennis against Rush and that kind of stuff, the band members. So, but the main thing is he's got a hopeful story of recovery. So I think he'll be a good speaker. If you can't make it out to the actual holiday party and just want to hop on the Zoom, there's flyers circulating. Let me know if you need one. And it shouldn't be a problem. So hopefully we'll see some of you out for that. And I think that's it. Thank you all for staying a little bit late, and thank you for your time. If we don't see you next week, have a wonderful Christmas, Happy New Year, and thanks for everything you've done for the ROSC this year.
Dan, you said that was Wednesday, this next one?
Yeah, 29th,
From
December 29th.
6:30 to 8:30
In the Bloomington Library.
on Olive Street,
What's the name of that room it's in, Michelle?
community room.
Is community room?
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see you, Ethan. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
All right, bye, guys.
Yep.